The following case involves the unaliving of a child's parents and the abduction of a 13-year-old child. This discussion touches on disturbing aspects of the crime, including disturbing subject matter included in the Barron County Sheriff's Office investigative files. If you cannot emotionally or psychologically handle such topics, or if you have younger children in the room, please watch one of our other videos from playlists that are more appropriate for that audience. Today we'll be talking about the case of Jayme Closs, a 13-year-old girl who in the middle of the night on October 15th, 2018, watched her parents get taken out of her life before her very eyes by a disturbed, warped individual, a 21-year-old by the name of Jake Patterson. We'll be covering the case from different perspectives. First, you'll experience this crime from the perspective of law enforcement, from the 911 call through the various interviews and tips investigated as they race the clock to locate Jayme. Next, we'll view the whole ordeal through the eyes of Jayme herself, what she saw, what she was feeling, and how she turned the tables on her captor. And finally, we'll look at Jake Patterson himself, in an effort to try and get a glimpse into the mind of a man who had no criminal past, yet decided on that fateful night to transform into a monster. Hold on to your seats, because this case, quite honestly, is going to be a crazy ride. At approximately 12:54 a.m. on October 15th, 2018, the Barron County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from Jayme Closs's cell phone. The 911 dispatcher could hear noises but couldn't understand what was being said. Jayme was clearly in distress, and other voices could be heard in the background, including a man and a child, but the dispatcher couldn't make out what was being said. This was that 911 call.
County 911, where is your emergency? Somebody I just want from. Hello?
The dispatch center was able to trace the call to 1268 Highway 8, Barron, Wisconsin. This is a remote location along Highway 8, hidden from the road by trees and with very few neighbors nearby. Unfortunately, the remoteness of the location made it a perfect target for an abduction. This is the layout of the home, with the victims positioned on the floor plan where police found them. This diagram was added to the case file by Trooper Hansen. When Troopers Hansen, DeVries, and Diede arrived, they discovered a deceased male just inside the front door. The victim had sustained a single gunshot wound to the head. As they searched the home further, they discovered a deceased female who had barricaded herself in the bathroom. The bathroom door was destroyed, and the female victim had also sustained a single gunshot wound to the head. Police quickly identified the victims as 46-year-old Jayme Closs and 56-year-old Jayme Closs. Jayme Closs, who police determined was their 13-year-old daughter, was nowhere to be found. Police immediately started canvassing the neighborhood and interviewing neighbors. One neighbor told police that while lying in bed she had heard a gunshot, and then 3 to 5 seconds later heard a second gunshot. They seemed to be far away, and when she looked out the window, she couldn't see anything. A second witness told police that as he'd been driving home from work at 5 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, he'd seen a person in the back of a hayfield to the west, approximately 300 feet from the road. The man was wearing dark pants and a pink or red shirt and didn't appear to be carrying anything. On the afternoon of October 15th, DCI Special Agent Jonathan Mayer requested recorded video footage from Wisconsin DOT highway cameras between October 13th at 11:59 p.m. through Monday, October 15th at 3 p.m. The footage requested was extensive and included 11 cameras along US Highway 53 and 8 cameras along Interstate 94. All these cameras were the closest available cameras to the Closs residence. Special Agent Meyer reviewed important segments of the footage and noted that because the video segments were recorded at night, clarity of vehicles was limited, and police had no suspect vehicle to even look for. The following day, an anonymous source told police that Denise and James had recently been in a property dispute with Jayme Closs's uncle, but didn't name which one. Investigators interviewed all immediate Closs family members, but interviews turned up no additional leads. In the following weeks, investigators questioned family, friends, neighbors, and conducted numerous searches. They even interviewed coworkers of Denise's at the Jenny O turkey store. There were no significant marital issues, and the Closs family appeared to have no enemies. The number of interviews was so extensive that at least 500 to 800 pages of the investigative report are interviews with everyone from Jayme's friends and teachers at school, family, friends, and even acquaintances. None of these interviews turned up any significant leads. The report listed 8 individuals on the sex offender registry who'd been looked into. On October 17th, the investigative case report noted that all contacts indicated they were not familiar with the Closs family and they did not recognize photos of Jayme, Denise, or James. All consent searches resulted in no one located or any suspicious activity. All searches of Google Maps on smartphones resulted in accounted for travel. And then the sightings started. There was a false report at a Love's Travel Center near Lebanon, Indiana, where witnesses reported seeing a quote-unquote suspicious vehicle where a younger female was left alone in a black Ford Explorer and set off the car alarm several times when she attempted to open the passenger side door. The witnesses believed the younger male in the passenger seat resembled Jayme Closs, who they'd seen in the Amber Alert. The witness took photos of the vehicle before it left the gas station. When police checked surveillance footage inside the gas station, they didn't see any older female going into the store matching the description described by the witnesses. They located the owner of the vehicle and the lead turned into a dead end. There was another false alarm when witnesses reported a white van from Wisconsin, parked where truckers are supposed to park at a Flying J truck stop along US Highway 75 in Texas. They reported seeing the white van, quote-unquote, moving up and down while the van was in park. The lead went nowhere. The report didn't indicate why the van was bouncing up and down. One can only guess. Another sighting occurred on October 18th at approximately 12 p.m. where a man named Paul informed police that he'd seen a younger white female resembling Jayme Closs, accompanied by an older white male and an older white female inside the Arby's in the city of Ashland. After reviewing the surveillance footage, investigators determined that the child was not Jayme Closs. Yet another report came in where the caller stated he'd possibly seen Jayme Closs at a CVS in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on October 19th at around 4 p.m. Again, this lead led nowhere. The one key finding of note in the investigative report, a moment we would learn later that investigators had actually caught a glimpse of the perpetrator, was when investigators were reviewing Barron Police dash camera video and noticed a possibly red vehicle pulled over to the side of the road as the 3 squad cars were traveling in the opposite direction toward the Closs residence following the 911 call. Now that they had a suspect vehicle to look for, they noticed the red car on surveillance footage traveling eastbound on US Highway 8 around 12:45 a.m. on the 15th, then on another camera traveling eastbound on US Highway 8 at around 1:02 a.m. The video was sent to the FBI for analysis. Unfortunately, the FBI couldn't identify the make, model, or license plate of the red car and several others they considered to be suspect. Investigators returned to the spot where the red car was seen on video pulled over and found the tire impressions. They took photographs and partial casts of one of the tracks, using enhanced photos and contacting car experts at RPW Headlamps. The experts reported to police that they believed the car was possibly a 2008 to 2014 Dodge Challenger. Unfortunately, investigators were never able to determine the owner of the vehicle or the destination of the red car after it was sighted heading eastbound on US Highway 8. Investigators at one point interviewed a Jenny O employee who owned a red Toyota Corolla and who coworkers had reported as bringing a knife to work. The employee reported that on the 14th and 15th, he was home alone. And he knew Denise only through work but didn't know James. When asked, what do you think should happen to someone who would do something like this? He responded, I think they should get what they deserve, whatever the law says. The last entry in the investigative report prior to the fateful day in January 2019 when everything would finally come to light was a report by Deputy Brian Gillek on October 22, 2018. It was related to the theft of a license plate in Serona, Wisconsin. There were no further reports filed in the investigative file until January 13th. I stopped it there because at the end of this segment, I realized I told what happened at the end, and it gives too much away. And I want to get your thoughts on the investigation. Like, number one, no enemies, no witnesses.
No marriage issues. Like, there's nothing to go on.
The other thing,
basically.
They interviewed, and I couldn't believe when I was going through the case file, they interviewed hundreds of people. It was like so many people.
Yeah, well, they always do in cases like this. I mean, they interview, I don't know, the guy who, like, cleaned the bathroom in the store where she might have been. I don't know.
How did he even know Jayme? See, Robin brings up a good question.
Right.
If it wasn't,
exactly.
They couldn't find anybody in the family or in the friends group that knew anything about the abduction, then how did the abductor know Jayme?
Who's the friends group?
The family's friends.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I thought you meant her friend group.
Usually the abductor is an acquaintance or knows the kid being abducted. 90% of the time, it's like one of the most common scenarios.
I mean, if the person took her, it obviously wasn't for money because the parents were killed. So it's not like they were doing it for, like, ransom.
Yeah.
Because the parents were killed.
The parents were just killed.
So what was the reason?
What's the motive?
What's the motive?
Why just... I mean...
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm trying to... This is hard knowing the whole story. But if I didn't...
Okay, I just want to say I know nothing.
Yeah, Jen doesn't know this, so it makes it interesting. The thought, though, like for me, I would keep going back whenever I think about a case like this where a kid disappears. If the parents are killed, my immediate reaction would be it has to be some kind of random predator who's looking for a kid, right?
How old is this girl?
She was 13.
Her picture, 13
years old.
Wow, in her picture she looked older than that.
No, Jayme Closs was 13 years old.
So, I don't know, because most predators, I think, I don't know, that would take a younger child than 13.
You're right. Usually they're much younger than 13.
Yeah, because that would have been at the end of usually they like them younger. 13 is near the end of that age group.
I guess statistically they go younger than 13.
So, I mean, she is at the age where an older boy might think that she's older and like her.
So not an older man, but a boy who's like a younger man.
Yeah, because they might think she's, 14, 15, and then...
Closer to the age that...
Yeah.
So you're going with potentially a suspect who was a younger man older than her.
Right, but
between what age?
In that age, I'm thinking like 18, 19.
18, 19. Write that down then. So your guess right now is...
Let's make a guess.
Your profile is 18 to 19-year-old younger male. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts on, like, do you think it would be someone who is flying under the radar with police, maybe a friend and family, or just literally, like Robin said, not random, but random can have different meanings. So,
I mean, at this point, it could be that she wants to go with the guy. I mean, if she's seeing somebody under the radar and she wants to be with this guy and her parents don't want her to, and this guy's upset because he could have gone and killed her parents and then taken her.
So possible love interest you're going with. Maybe a love interest that the police couldn't identify.
Right.
That the parents didn't know about.
Right.
And for some reason he wanted to unalive the parents.
Right, because they wouldn't let him see her or something.
Maybe.
I don't know. I
did-
have a feeling that's not right because
Well, I did leave out the fact that everyone called her happy, described her as shy but happy, and
well, she
very
could be
good.
happy
very
if she
good.
was in a relationship with a kid.
True.
It doesn't mean she'd be a bad student. It doesn't mean
Does
any of
good
that.
relationship with her parents make any difference? Do you think she might still have a secret relationship?
It's possible,
Okay.
from what I've seen.
Robin thinks he had to have watched her. He had to have watched her or saw her at some point. So like a lust scenario.
True.
Maybe he saw
Very
her.
true.
So
Yeah.
that's a good thought too. All right. Now I'm going to get to the groundbreaking moment, like when the police discovered kind of what happened, but they didn't understand. And then, of course, the interviews and the whole story starts coming out.
Right.
It'll blow your mind. Trust me. It's
Right.
just crazy.
But I've just been trying to think outside the box.
Knowing what happened, I'm actually impressed so far with your profile, with the little bit of profile you put. I'm
Okay.
like, thinking that through is pretty cool. I'm impressed.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, let's get to that. On January 10th, 2019, nothing short of a true miracle happened. On a cold winter day, a citizen named Gene Nutter in Gordon, Wisconsin called 911 and reported that Jayme Closs was with her at a residence in her neighborhood. She had spotted the girl when she returned to her driveway after her afternoon walk around 4:10 p.m. that afternoon. The following is a short clip in an interview on CBS this morning where Gene explains exactly what happened that afternoon.
I was at the end of my driveway, and then I saw a young woman who appeared to be in distress. She was probably about 10 or 12 feet from me, saying, "I need help." All I knew is whoever this child is, she's in trouble. So I quickened my pace and got to her, and she just sort of fell into me and said, "I'm Jayme," and I said, "I know."
Did you recognize her right away?
Right away, because her pictures are everywhere.
Yeah.
And I knew what was going through my head is, okay, I know your circumstances, I know what happened to you, I know the person you're with is potentially dangerous. My only responsibility is to get you to a safe place.
When police arrived, Jayme told them that the person who had unalived her parents and abducted her was Jake Patterson. She also described his vehicle. Police saw the vehicle drive past the residence, pull it over, and identify the driver as Jake T. Patterson. Patterson immediately told police, "I know what this is about, and I did it." He was immediately arrested and transported to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. In his jailhouse interview with police, Jake Patterson admitted everything, unaliving James and Denise Closs and abducting Jayme Closs. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of armed burglary. The rest of the investigative files explain in great detail exactly what happened in the Closs home late on the evening of October 14th, 2018. This detail comes from the perspective of Jayme Closs and also Jake Patterson. Next up, we're going to dive into the story Jayme told FBI child forensic interviewer Bonnie Fries about the horrifying details of what happened to her and her parents on the evening of October 14th. What'd you say?
I said I was just really surprised she was alive, which makes me think that whoever took her was either in love with her or that's the only reason I can think of, really. Because why would he take her if he didn't want, like, he killed the parents, so he didn't expect getting any money from it all.
Correct. No benefit from the parents
Right.
whatsoever.
And so why would he take her? That's the question.
And he would have wanted her bad enough to kill people, like
right,
to
and to
unalive
keep
people.
her alive.
And to keep her
And
alive.
that's a big deal.
That is a form of almost warped love, isn't
Yes.
it? That's a good point. That's a good point. Yep.
Yep.
Jayme told Special Agent Bonnie Fries that she was asleep in her bedroom late on the night of October 14th when her dog started barking. When she got up to investigate, she saw someone driving up their driveway. She woke up her parents and her father went to the door. There was a man standing at the door with a gun. So Jayme and her mother went to the bathroom, closed the door, and hid in the bathtub. She said that when she heard the first gunshot, she knew her father had just been unalived. She said her mother tried to call 911, but the man busted open the bathroom door and told her to hang up the phone. She said the man was wearing black from head to toe, including a face mask, hat, and gloves. He then commanded Jayme's mother to put tape over Jayme's mouth before he finally shot her mother 1 time. Patterson then taped Jayme's hands and ankles together and dragged her out to his car and put her into the trunk. The car was an older red four-door. She said she had heard the sirens of 2 police cars drive by not long after they began traveling. Jayme said it felt like she'd been in the trunk for about 2 hours before they arrived at a house. Patterson then took Jayme to a hallway, removed the bindings, and told her to go into his bedroom and take off all her clothes. He put her clothes in a bag and told her he was going to throw her clothes away because they were evidence. The craziest part of this situation is how easily Jake Patterson managed to keep his captivity of Jayme a secret, even to his own family, despite the fact that they would visit and even had a family Christmas party that year for 4 hours while Jayme was hidden away in the house. Jayme told investigators that anytime friends or relatives would come over, Jake would make her hide under his bed in the corner of the room. He then stacked totes and laundry bins around the bed filled with weights so she couldn't move them. He then turned music on in his room. Jayme told the interviewer she thought he did that so she couldn't hear what was happening outside the room when people were in the house. We would learn later from Jake's interview that that wasn't the case at all. He would also force her to stay under the bed anytime he left the house. There were times she was forced to stay trapped under the bed for up to 12 hours at a time without food, water, or bathroom breaks. She told Bonnie Fry that one time when he got mad at her, he hit her, quote, really hard, unquote, on the back with a handle for something to clean blinds, and then it hurt really bad when he hit her with it. This treatment continued from October 15, 2018 for almost 3 entire months until January 10th, 2019. On that day, Jake left the house for a few hours. Jayme had decided she'd had enough. She pushed the bins and weights away from the bed and crawled out. She found a pair of Jake's shoes and put them on and walked out of the house. She walked down the road until she saw a woman walking her dog and told her who she was and that Jake Patterson had kidnapped her. She said the woman took her to the closest house where they called 911. It's just unbelievable the amount of courage it would have taken for a 13-year-old girl to escape that house after being brainwashed for 3 months to believe the unthinkable would happen to her if she tried. But Jayme found the courage within herself on that day to defy his orders, break out of her prison, and win her freedom back. But what would drive 21-year-old Jake Thomas Patterson to commit such unthinkable crimes? Not only committing a double murder, but abducting a child as well? In a moment, we'll get a glimpse into the warped mind of this man. The interesting thing is, somehow, you got within a year or two of the age range. Mm-hmm. He's 21. So I never thought of the fact that he was 21 and that could have been part of it. She was close enough to his age.
He, like, a lot of times I hear about these things where she might have looked a little bit old for her age.
Yep.
So he might have thought she was like 16 or something, which still too young, but old enough for him to be interested. What I don't understand is, like, all I heard about was that she was kept under a bed.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about any sexual...
Nope.
Am I supposed to say that? Sexual...
Nope.
Anything. I heard about him hurting her.
Yep.
But because she was being too loud.
Trying to get away.
Trying to get away, but I didn't hear... So this is weird.
Isn't it fascinating? So we don't know right now. We don't know why he took her, because she didn't. From her perspective, this is all from her perspective.
All I can think of is he's got her up on a pedestal for some reason, and still he hurts her. So I don't.
I think the hurting.
I don't know.
The hurting to me was he wanted to keep her.
Yeah.
And he wanted her.
Well, maybe he has a thing. Sorry.
You totally interrupted.
Maybe he has a.
No, he did not.
I don't want to say things.
He did not, Robin, he did not SA her.
I don't want to say things that are, like, not okay to say online, but maybe he saw her as, like, a virginal person who need to be kept, like, pure or something, but he wanted her for himself type of thing.
I never thought of that. He did, like,
you know what I'm saying?
Put her on a pedestal, adored.
Yeah. She
was a thing to be kept like a prize,
right?
Like something special.
And most likely she was a virgin, so he probably saw that as a thing. He was old. He was young enough for that to be something he'd be interested in.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, you're good at this. Because it's hard because the things I know about his past, it makes perfect sense. Yes, that
you think it's
what you're profiling. He's the type of person, I think, based on what I know now, to put a girl he all of a sudden is like, is it idolizing? He chooses to like, this is the one,
kind of
one.
obsessing.
Obsessed. Thank you. Obsessed with her, and so
It sounds like he probably, tracked her and over quite a while probably watched her until he saw a time he could take her.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Robin said, but he was physical with her. In the end, I think he would have unalived her. I don't know that he would have unalived her because I think the physical part was that he wanted to brainwash her into being so fearful she wouldn't even dare to walk out of the house. I think it was just using fear to control her.
She wanted to keep her. I mean, he probably wanted to keep her as she was, like a doll. I think,
yes, yes,
just wanted her to be that forever.
Yep. I don't even think he had in his mind any realistic form of long term. It was just
her. I have to keep her.
Just keep her, and it had nothing to do with S.A.ing or anything. I don't even think, and that's why I don't think he would have unalived her because he adored her.
I don't think he had an end game in mind.
No, it was just like, this is the way it's going to be for as long as I can make it be this way.
Yeah.
The other Robin here said it reminds me of the movie Misery.
Oh goodness.
Isn't it? Except that he didn't break her leg in 2 places, but yes. It's a lot like Misery. It's a lot like Misery.
Putting somebody on a pedestal and
keeping them hostage.
Keeping them alive, but at the same time hurting them when they think they might lose them. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't have a long-term game because the other Rocket Robin said she would have gotten to the age at some point, even if she was brainwashed enough to stay, she would have gotten to the age where she started having an attitude and was like, I'm just going to... Yeah. She would have eventually ran away. I don't think he was thinking.
I have a feeling that he was very emotionally young, thwarted.
Yeah, thwarted.
Young, and he didn't he wasn't able to see into the future of what might happen.
So emotionally thwarted in some way. You should be keeping a profile while we talk to see how close you're full.
Yeah, I got in here.
Because then you'll see how close you actually are to the actual profile.
I'm curious.
Let's see, Real Rock Robin, which she did and got the courage to leave.
Yes.
Good point. Yeah, and that was only.
Yeah,
it only
I bet
took
that
her 3
really
months.
surprised him too.
Oh yeah, I mean he, in his interview, as you'll see.
Are you supposed to talk about it yet?
No, but in his interview, I think everything you're saying and everything you're seeing and everything that you feel about his psychology, you'll be like nodding your head the whole time. Trust me, it's amazing. So we can get to his interview. What's cool about his interview, although what he did was horrible, especially to her parents, is you start seeing the psychology
Probably
come out.
In him, he had a very pure reason to do what he did.
If you can call it that.
Well, in his mind. No, I mean in his mind, he was probably like trying to keep purity.
Even after unaliving people, though.
But they were just in the way of her purity. In his mind.
That's what
I'm thinking.
The one piece I can't understand. Oh, okay. So Real Rock and Robin has an additional profile piece. He had probably been rejected by numerous females.
That's very likely.
And actually, then he would feel like he would have to force that to happen. Or
right.
maybe
But we've got to understand why he'd go to those lengths as a 21-year-old man.
Yeah. Once you cross over the line into murdering someone, it's just a different level.
He must have been tracking her and watching her.
Just wanted her so bad that he would
For
unalive
some reason, something
2 people.
must have about her must have gotten to him. Like he needed to save her or something.
Yeah, in his head.
Yeah.
Fascinating. The insights from all of you are actually really cool. So
nice.
Okay, let's move on to the next section. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
The final gaps in this story get filled once Jake provided his full confession to police. Detective Nelson and Special Agent Joe Welsh conducted a custodial interview of Jake Patterson at 7:15 p.m. on January 10th, 2019. Jake confessed to unaliving James and Denise Closs and kidnapping Jayme. He told detectives that he had quit from his job at Saputo Cheese Factory after only working there for 2 days. He stated that on his drive to the factory on one of those mornings, he'd stopped behind a school bus on US Highway 8 and watched Jayme Closs get off the bus. He didn't know her or her family, but he said it was at that moment that he knew she was the girl he was going to take. Jake chickened out during the first 2 attempts. After his last day at Saputo Cheese, he purchased a black balaclava mask from Walmart. Several days later, he drove to the Closs home but saw multiple cars in the driveway, so he left. A day or 2 after that, he drove to the Closs home again and noticed there were lights on in the house and people were walking around, so once again he left. After putting more thought into his plan, he drove a few miles down the road and stole the license plate off a vehicle parked in the yard so that he wouldn't be spotted anywhere with his own license plates. On October 15th, he took his father's 12-gauge Mossberg shotgun and 6 12-gauge shotgun shells. Wearing gloves, he wiped down the shotgun shells and the shotgun to remove all fingerprints and DNA. Still wearing the gloves, he loaded the 6 shells into the shotgun. Then he shaved his face and all of his hair on his head and then showered. On his way to the Closs home, he stopped on the side of the road, removed his front and rear license plates, and attached the stolen license plate on the back. He then removed the dome light from inside the vehicle, the trunk light, and removed the internal trunk release cord so it couldn't be opened from inside the trunk. As he arrived at the Closs home, he killed his headlights and coasted into the end of the driveway. As he walked up the sidewalk leading to the front door of the house, he saw James standing in the picture window to the left of the front door. Patterson yelled at James to get on the ground, but James kept flashing his flashlight outside the window. Patterson opened the outer storm door and pounded on the main door. James, as he was looking through the decorative glass, told Patterson to show him his badge, assuming that Patterson was the police. Patterson then raised the shotgun, aimed it directly at James' head through the decorative glass, and pulled the trigger. Patterson fired a second shot at the doorknob and then used his shoulder to bust open the front door. After stepping over James's body, he turned on his flashlight and noticed the door directly in front of him was closed. He checked all the other rooms first to make sure they were empty before returning to the closed door, which was locked and barricaded. He told detectives it took him 10 to 15 hits with his shoulder before the bathroom door finally burst open. He saw the bathtub curtain was shut and he ripped it aside and saw Denise and Jayme sitting in the bathtub. Denise had her arms wrapped around her daughter in a bear hug. After wrapping duct tape around Jayme's mouth, Patterson said he had Jayme stand up so he could tape her hands and ankles before turning his shotgun on Denise and pulling the trigger. He said he then dragged Jayme to the car and put her in his trunk. He told detectives that he had only driven about 20 minutes from the house when he yielded to 3 passing squad cars traveling west toward the house. The rest of the story matches Jayme's exactly, with a few gaps filled in. He had taken Jayme's clothes, but also the duct tape and 2 pairs of gloves that he'd worn and burned them all in the wood fireplace in the basement. He admitted that the few times Jayme had tried to get out from under the bed, he screamed and struck a wall in an effort to scare her, and that he believed she was fearful of him enough that she would know she wasn't to leave the bedroom without him. He said at any time he left the house, he told her that she better not leave, or bad things would happen to her if she tried. He admitted that when his father would come visit on Saturdays, he would hide Jayme under the bed and turn up the radio to cover up any noise Jayme might make. He also admitted that for the first 2 weeks he had kept his loaded shotgun near a door outside his room for protection in case the police came. After that, he unloaded the gun and kept it hidden in the trunk of a broken down white car in the yard. Patterson told detectives that he had basically assumed he had gotten away with killing James and Denise and kidnapping Jayme, since he hadn't gotten caught in the first 2 weeks. He said he'd never even known the names of the people he shot until he saw their names reported on the news and on social media. He also said he believed he never would have been caught if he would have planned everything perfectly. And isn't that how the mind of a narcissist works? Even after being outwitted by Jayme and getting arrested, he still couldn't wrap his head around the reality that he had been outsmarted by a 13-year-old girl. After conducting a 2-day search, police recovered 89 pieces of evidence, including the Mossberg shotgun and 3 remaining shells, the stolen license plate, and Patterson's boots, jacket, and mask he'd been wearing at the time he committed the crime. What was his motive? Why would a seemingly normal yet shy 21-year-old suddenly decide to walk into a random house, unalived 2 parents, and take their 13-year-old daughter, holding her captive for 3 months? Police interviewed Jake's brother on January 11th, 2019. Jake's brother told police that their parents had divorced when he was in 6th or 7th grade. He described Jake as a very shy kid growing up. Jake had been a Marine briefly before having a medical discharge because of a heart condition. Oddly enough, Jake's brother described himself as the bad egg, but not Jake. Apparently, Jake was an avid reader and quote-unquote smart. He'd never had a girlfriend and only had a few friends in high school. Jake had a good relationship with both parents. Jake's brother remembered the family celebrating Christmas on December 30th, 2018 at the house for about 3 or 4 hours, and that he'd noticed Jake's bedroom door was shut the entire time they were there. Jake's brother said he'd visited the house about 5 times since September 3, when they would sit on the deck and play games. He said Jake seemed more outgoing and appeared to be happier. His final words in the interview were, "Never in a million years would I've thought he could do anything like this." Jake's sister reported that Jake had approximately 20 jobs in the span of a few years. She also told detectives that the last couple of times she'd seen him, he'd been happier than normal. She also mentioned how his bedroom door was shut when they'd visited during the Christmas holiday. In Frey's interview, Jake's mother, she stated that Jake was devastated after his discharge because of his desire to serve in the military. She said it broke him. Whenever she tried talking to him about the Marines or other military options, he became emotional and didn't want to talk about it. Throughout 2016 and 2017, she thought he was doing better because he was working more, but he struggled to hold a steady job. Oddly enough, he liked his last job, and she reported they really liked him there. But he just decided to quit, and she didn't know why. In 2017, Jake moved in with his father, and according to her, quote-unquote, Jake regressed around that time. There are signs Jake was bullied when he was younger. In the police reports, his brother or brother-in-law was referenced with a name that starts with E. Apparently E verbally abused Jake and eventually also became physically abusive. But his mother said Jake tolerated it. The girlfriend of E reported to detectives that on the school bus, other kids would pound on Jake's feet, but he would ignore them. Other than being bullied by other kids in school and his brother, and being emotionally distraught by getting discharged from the military, there was absolutely nothing, as far as we know, in Jake Patterson's past to explain why he decided on the evening of October 14th to become a murderous monster, wiping out the lives of 2 innocent and loving parents and abducting their child and holding her hostage for months. On May 24th, 2019, Jake Patterson appeared in Barron County Circuit Court for sentencing. Judge James Babler sentenced Patterson as follows. Count 1, first-degree intentional homicide, life imprisonment without the eligibility for extended supervision. Count 2, first-degree intentional homicide, life imprisonment without the eligibility for extended supervision. Count 3, kidnapping, 25 years, 15 years extended supervision. Count 4, armed burglary, dismissed by prosecutor, all sentences to run consecutively. In a final note, James Patterson wrote a letter to Lou Ragus, a reporter with a local NBC station. When news of the letter broke, the public's hope for answers, for some kind of motive at least, would become apparent. Listen and decide for yourself.
In a letter sent from a Wisconsin jail where he's awaiting trial, Patterson writes, "I want Jayme and her relatives to know that. Don't want them to worry about a trial." Patterson also scrawling an apology, writing in bubble letters, "I'm sorry, Jayme, for everything. I know it doesn't mean much." The CARE reporter initially wrote Patterson asking for details that were not in the court record. Patterson's response to if he had any remorse or regrets for what he did: "Huge amounts. I can't believe I did this." Asked what goes through the mind of someone who commits a crime like this, Patterson says, "The reason I did this is complicated." And to the reporter's question when he realized he was capable of doing something like this, Patterson responds in part, "This was mostly on impulse. I don't think like a serial killer."
I would say complicated is an understatement. Was it really just on impulse? Is it even possible for a normal human with a sane mind to act only on impulse and take the lives of two adults and then abduct and psychologically torture a 13-year-old child for months? Personally, I don't think so. I'm sure he'd like everyone to think he's just a regular guy, but regular guys do not even contemplate such disgusting acts of evil.
I think we're missing something.
Well,
I don't get the pathology because
right?
There's got to be something underlying in there that maybe came out after he was dismissed from the military. He was dismissed, right?
He was discharged from the military.
Discharge. That might have triggered something. I think something triggered him because I don't see, like, he's not I wouldn't say he's an extremely intelligent person who would, do this. He didn't really plan it out all that well. I guess. He planned some of it. He tried hard to
cover the DNA,
cover it all and
that kind of
everything.
stuff.
But his reason behind it,
well, number one, you guys, the profile that all of you have put out, the biggest thing was, I think Rock and Robin and you both said, that it was a thing with females. And he never had a girlfriend. That was a big thing.
Right, that is a big
21
thing.
years old, he never had a girlfriend.
I think he probably felt like a failure, okay? Because he went into the military, he was discharged, never had a girlfriend.
So he's
like I'm a failure. And then he saw this girl that he put up on a pedestal. And he's like, if I can just have that, then I've accomplished something.
I've got one thing that he wants.
Yeah.
At least one thing he wants.
Yeah. At the same time, though, killing two people, I just don't get that from his past.
Right.
So there's got to be something.
Right?
Something. Either he snapped and that happened, like a mental illness that was festering there.
Well,
that just happened, or
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Not just so his psychology was that, I think you're right, that he felt like he was a failure. Also, I did want to mention really quick, Jayme's psychology was interesting too, because she was getting brainwashed. If you pay attention to her interview, she said, I hope I mentioned this, because if I didn't, in her interview, she had mentioned she thought he was turning on the radio because he didn't want her to hear what was going on outside the door. Okay? So think about that. She's thinking that he's in control.
He was protecting her?
No, that he's in control and he wants to control everything she can see, hear, and do at all times. Now, when he got interviewed, he said, I turned on the radio because I didn't want anyone outside the door to hear her. Which means he knew she was in control. She didn't realize that she had control. She could have made a loud noise. She could have done something. I think she was starting to slowly get brainwashed and starting to think
sounds like it. She was trying to save herself. Like she was probably scared to think that if she said something.
Yeah.
Because we don't even know what he said to her at all.
Just
like what
bad
he
things will
told
happen.
her or anything.
Just bad things will happen if you try to escape.
That doesn't. Like I don't feel like we have enough information.
Enough of his background to do to understand
enough of the whole thing.
I agree. So Rock and Robin is saying she's very 100% convinced that he premeditated and planned it after he saw her. Like carefully premeditated.
Yeah, because he was stalking her.
Taking the tags so people wouldn't identify him. Shaving to prevent DNA, gloves.
I mean,
wiping down the gun and the ammo.
Premeditated, but I don't see him as this really like intelligent killer type person.
No, he's not like one of those.
He's like
He's not like one of those extremely like high IQ serial killers
No.
who can go years getting away with things. He
thought it up to a point.
Yeah.
But after the whole getting her part, I don't think
He had no plan.
thought about after that.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm going to make sure nobody knows she's here.
Right.
And she's mine. Like some prize under the bed.
From then on, what was his plan? That's the question.
Yeah. And I think your point is exactly what I'm saying. I've been saying this whole time is his psychology. You can explain it for taking a girl because of he feeling like a loser, not having any girlfriends. Oh, here's my opportunity to have a prize of my very own.
Right.
But to go a step to cross over that line and to unalive two people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That part is hard for me to grapple with.
That takes more of a broken psychology than just being.
It makes me think maybe. I mean, yeah, he was discharged from the military, but I feel like there might be something else, like something that happened in his past, or a very serious mental illness.
Yeah, I think they would have identified his past. Of those two options, I'll tell you which one I would go with. They interviewed so many people, understood I think they identified there was a little bit of bullying, but a lot of people are bullied and nothing happens. Yeah. Like a lot of people are bullied and don't go kill people.
Right.
Like you said, definitely the military was a huge big piece of his broken.
Most people in the military, they hang everything on that for their self-esteem. Like you go in the military because it gives you really positive self-esteem.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And to be let go from that must be a big blow.
So, but again, that the bullying, all that stuff, to me is not enough.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Now, Robin brings up a really good point. I didn't think about this. 21 years old is a common age for schizophrenia to rear up in someone who has a tendency. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's an underlying
or bipolar.
Very serious, very serious mental illness that he had. And I wonder if they actually took the time in the jail. Well, I wonder if the lawyers bothered giving him a psychiatric panel.
And even if they did, I don't think it would have I don't think it would have held for not guilty and for a reason of insanity. I don't think it was insane.
No, it wouldn't. But just to know,
I don't think it was. I think he understood what he was doing, obviously, because he planned it very well. But I do think that had something to do with it personally.
There has to be. I mean, the only reason someone would kill someone is if they're broken mentally. They have something that snaps.
Right, and it doesn't sound like it. I mean, obviously he had some difficulties in his past, in his childhood, but I don't think it was anything to...
Actually, there's a sign that can give us a clue into what he had, or if he had something. He could not hold a job.
Yep, and that is
20
definitely...
jobs.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does point toward a mental illness.
And what's weird is, though, most people I know who have disturbing mental illnesses where it disrupts their lives, the people at the job usually identify it before they even do. Like, there's something wrong with that person.
Well, if you're dealing with a mental illness, if you're in the throes of it, you don't realize it. But you think you're just fine.
But they liked him.
Because you can act like the best person in the world.
So whatever he had, he was really good at covering up his psychology. Yeah. But it wasn't enough because he had to quit. He kept having to quit. I don't know
if it was as far as schizophrenia, though. Because that is very, very, very obvious. I think maybe bipolar.
And disruptive. Bipolar, yeah, because he would be able to...
totally make friends and influence people.
Yeah. You can put on a face, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you are. If you're in the middle of it, like most times, you are very personable, like out there.
Could this have been a manic episode for him?
Yeah, could have
Some kind of psychotic break. He sees this girl. He's in the middle of, he quit his job. He just quit his job again. So, yeah, he might have been going through something, and then he sees her, and it's like, boom, that's the focus.
And that's why you're right. He focused on that, and that was his thing.
And that was his breakdown.
That was.
I don't know, man. To be the first case we covered, it was almost, as I'm going halfway through it, I'm like, this is almost too deep, like too much.
Yeah, I just feel like we don't know enough.
There's not enough
There's
information.
got to be more.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel comfortable making a total, like, definite.
Can't even say what it was.
No.
What he had. Yeah.
No, it's interesting to me. They kept her alive.
It didn't essay. Didn't hurt her
Right.
other than trying to scare her. That's crazy. Like,
That is weird.
yeah. How
But
common
he
is that?
did kill the parents.
Yeah, he was a murderer, but he wouldn't.
So it's just a strange.
Yeah. Isn't it the most interesting case?
It is very interesting.
Yeah. Thank God she got away.
Yes.
Thank God she got
Thank
away.
God. She's
So-
a strong girl.
She was amazing. It was a hero story. Like when it came out, they gave her the reward money.
Oh,
She saved herself.
awesome.
Yep, they gave her the
Oh, I
reward
love
money.
that. I
So-
love that. That's awesome.
So for all of you watching out there, not our members, because we're going to talk a little bit after, but for all of you watching, we would love your thoughts on his psychology, on her escape, the whole case. Please let us know your
Or
thoughts.
if you know anything about this case, it would be nice. Like if you know anything else,
More details about him.
more details, it would be really great to know.
Yep. Please leave your comments. Let us know your thoughts on this case. We'd love to hear from you all. For all of you, thank you for watching. Anything else on this case? Anything else from members?
Well, I
Anybody
came
wants to-
into this blind, so
You did.
know.
You did a good job. You profiled him right down to the letter, and so did our two members
yeah.
are here tonight.
hey, we're good. We're good.
Pretty good profiling job. Okay, so that'll be it for this time. Hope you guys love this format. If you do, let us know in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on the case. And
It was fun.
yep, thanks for spending time with us, and we'll see you next time.